Shark. The very word strikes fear into most of us. They are one of the most numerous and successful carnivores on Earth. At the top is the great white shark. Together with a highly intelligent killer whale, these extraordinary predators command the seas across the globe. But how do they hunt? Do they use strategy? And do they deliberately target humans? Is it just survival, or is it all just the killer instinct of sharks?
For most people, the world's oceans are a mysterious, intimidating, often hostile place. But what we might see as a frightening environment is actually home to millions of species of unique sea creatures.
The seas are a diverse three-dimensional environment, ranging from the warm, sunlit shallows of tropical reefs to near-freezing waters of abyssal trenches. We're going to journey into this world with Rob Brettel and meet two magnificent predators whose instinct to kill is undeniable. All sharks are carnivores, feeding on almost every kind of animal life, from worms and crabs on the seafloor to plankton and seals in the open ocean. They need to kill to survive. They've evolved and adapted over millions of years to become potent killing machines. Our relationship with them has become one of fear and misunderstanding, probably more to their detriment than ours. They come in all shapes, sizes and colours. At the top of the food chain is the one shark that strikes fear into us, but also the one we're most fascinated by, the great white.
The oceans need the sharks. Each of the different species of sharks prey on different types of fish and food. They eat the slow, the weak and the sick ones. We need the sharks in our oceans. They're our doctors. They clean up the slowest ones.
Unfortunately, when we venture into the shark's world, they can sometimes confuse us with their natural prey. That's when we become the slowest ones. The consequences can sometimes be tragic and fatal. But there is another predator which, until recently, was also one of the most feared and least understood of the ocean's creatures. There is no greater predator in the world's oceans than the killer whale.
Sharks first appeared in the Earth's oceans around 400 million years ago, before the dinosaurs roamed the Earth. Over the millions of years, they've survived and adapted in the most remarkable ways. The fact that they were able to outlive the dinosaurs speaks volumes of their efficiency as hunters and killers.
The sharks that live in our seas and oceans today have family trees that stretch back roughly 135 million years. Doubtless, the most interesting prehistoric shark of all is Carcharodon megalodon, the largest shark ever to have lived and a close relative of the great white. Scientists have found fossils of the megalodon that date back 25 million years.
This reconstructed jaw of this enormous animal indicates that this large shark grew to over 45 feet long with a mouth gape of over 6 feet. Using what we know today about the great white, we can assume that this large megalodon weighed more than 25 tons.
The megalodon would have fed on large marine mammals, other sharks, and dead whales, just like its living relative, the great white. For thousands of years, the natural behaviour and nature of sharks was shrouded in mystery by our inability to access their environment.
Until recently, most of our information about sharks came from untrained observers who, through brief glimpses, gave us much exaggerated interpretations. However, with the advent of scuba and other underwater technologies, humans are now able to observe these creatures for much longer periods of time in their natural environment.
Despite this, we have really explored only a small fraction of the great vast expanse of oceans that cover our planet. All around the world, shark populations are falling as harvesting continues by small-scale fishers right up to large industrial fishing. Game fishing, divers and other recreational divers also play a significant part in the harvesting process. Our fear of sharks and the unknown saw only until recently the wholesale slaughter of sharks in order to reduce the threat of shark attack. In some countries, like Australia, nets are set off popular swimming beaches in order to protect swimmers. Unfortunately, this can also prove deadly for harmless marine creatures. Are sharks a threat to us, or are they misunderstood predators of the sea? Coming up, sharks. What are they, and how they hunt their prey?
There are about 360 species of sharks throughout the oceans, from the tropics to the polar regions, from the shallows to the deeps. Their size, shape and colour are many and varied.
Sharks are in truth fish, but sharks comprise only about 1% of all living fishes. Unlike other fish though, sharks have no bones. Instead, their skeleton is made of cartilage. This gives the shark a high degree of body flexibility, allowing for quick, agile movement. It's this elastic tissue, together with large, oily livers, that help give sharks some of their buoyancy. Their skin looks and feels as though it's covered with tiny teeth. Their small, rough, placoid scales, called denticles, have the same structure as sharks' teeth. Depending on the species, sharks have 5 to 7 pairs of gill slits on the sides of their heads. Water flows out of the gill slits after passing over the gills. Contrary to popular belief, most sharks can breathe without swimming. They open and close their mouth to pump water over their gills. This is just one of the commonly held misconceptions about sharks. Another, that sharks are a swimming nose. Well, that implies that sharks rely only on their sense of smell to hunt down prey. It's true, sharks do have an incredible sense of smell. Some shark species can smell 1 drop of blood diluted in 1 million drops of seawater. But sharks have many other senses at their disposal in order to hunt down prey. The most important sense the shark uses in detecting its prey is sound, even though sharks don't have external ears. Instead, a tiny duct carries sound waves to the inner ear. Their incredible hearing can detect a struggling fish over a mile away. Though here, it probably wasn't too difficult to find this massive school of pilchards off the East Australian coast in what is an amazing example of predatory behaviour. Every year, this spawning migration sees hundreds of thousands of these baitfish move as one. This is a feast on the move for sharks, and whalers and tiger sharks are in the majority here. Taking lunging bites, they can score mouthfuls at a time. You may also be able to spot tuna, cobia and mackerel trying for some kills too. But they stay clear of the sharks, who seem to demand first strike honours. The tiny pilchards, vulnerable as they seem, can still employ a defence mechanism. By gathering close together and balling up, the attack rate of the sharks and other fish is reduced. They'll even swim around the head of the shark, confusing it and avoiding capture. But the sharks in this region are experienced hunters and herd the baitfish into the shallows like a big corral. They'll continually attempt to injure some of the prey to make the pickings easier later. During this feeding frenzy, many people are unaware of the dangers so close to shore, even though many swimming beaches are closed for this annual event. Sharks can also detect sound with what is known as their lateral line system. This design is made up of hundreds of pores along the side of a shark's body and head, and enable the shark to detect wave movements, pressure changes and vibrations in the water. Sharks also have excellent eyesight and can sense electromagnetic impulses produced by other animals. This helps them detect prey hidden beneath the sand.
Teeth. What can I tell you about sharks' teeth? It appears that nearly every species of shark has adapted its teeth to the prey it eats, but most can eat the same thing. Now the old tiger shark here, he's got like can openers for teeth, and he can bite through the shell of a turtle. Here we've got a mako shark. Now he's got long, slender holding teeth. He bites and swallows things whole. Now, this seven-gilled shark, he's got really like little saws there for cutting pieces out of larger, maybe dead animals even, because he's not a big shark. Over here we've got a Port Jackson shark. He really doesn't have teeth, they're crushing plates. So he eats mollusks and things. Now the most feared of all the sharks is the great white. And he's got those large, triangular, serrated teeth for biting pieces out of seals and things. Now sharks don't need to see a dentist. If one of their teeth break, another one from behind just folds out into place. In fact, a lemon shark in captivity, by the rate it shed its teeth, they believe it could have 26,000 teeth in its lifetime.
When we return, we'll introduce you face to jaws to some of the many species of sharks and discover how each hunts down their prey.
Right now, we are off the east coast of Australia, a country renowned for its shark populations. Let's see if we can get to know just a few of those 360 species of sharks, up close and personal.
Contrary to popular myths, sharks are not merely scavengers of the deep, feeding indiscriminately on garbage or anything that crosses their path. They are carnivores occupying nearly all feeding levels of all marine food chains. The tiger shark. This large, dangerous shark has a distinctive wide mouth and heavily serrated, triangular-shaped teeth. These, combined with its jaw strength, allow it to cut through the bodies of large sea turtles, as well as sea lions and cetaceans. The It also has a liking for such spicy treats as venomous jellyfish, stingrays, and sea snakes. The silvertip shark is a reef dweller and commonly found in warm tropical waters. The grey reef shark is similar in appearance to the silvertip shark. It feeds on small reef fish. It's one of the most common sharks on coral reefs. An inquisitive animal, it's commonly attracted to the low-frequency underwater sounds and commotion caused by a speared fish. There are many stories of a grey reef shark taking a fish off the end of an unsuspecting diver's spear. Another common reef inhabitant is the white-tip reef shark, so named because of the conspicuous white tips on its dorsal and caudal fins. The hammerhead is unmistakable in its appearance. They're capable of capturing large or elusive prey, when not falling prey themselves to sporting game fishermen. The hammerhead's favourite food is stingrays. And Rob's found a curious little ray that seems to fancy squid.
Of course, not everybody can or even wants to get up close and personal with sharks in their natural environment. That's where places like SeaWorld on the Gold Coast in Australia play their part in helping people better understand and appreciate these creatures. Here, you can see a variety of sharks in complete safety.
This is a grey nurse shark, also known as the sand tiger shark. A fearsome-looking shark because of its exposed, long, narrow, needle-like teeth. For many years, it was considered a vicious man-eater and was hunted to dangerously low levels. It's now a protected species in many parts of the world.
Now, this fellow's a bull shark, and they're found in the oceans all over the world. Together with the great white and the tigers, the bull sharks are responsible for many attacks on humans. Now, these guys will eat just about anything they can capture.
Each species of shark hunts in their own particular way. They hunt alone or in groups called schools. Many small reef sharks move over wide areas of the reef or the open sand bottom in search of their prey, while others, like the wobbegong, are ambush predators. Their bodies are camouflaged with colours and patterns that match their background. There are tiger sharks and the great whites who are pursuit predators that actively chase down their fleeing prey. And there are the filter feeders, like the giant whale shark. Next, the most feared and fascinating shark of them all, equally starring in movies, books, and often news reports of human shark attack, the great white.
There is one shark, above all others, that embodies the power and predatory efficiency of all sharks. A lone hunter that attacks with stealth and speed, killing with amazing swiftness and ferocity. The great white, also called the white pointer, the largest flesh-eating shark.
The star of film and books, it strikes terror in the hearts of many people. It's a large, powerful, and superbly adapted predator that occurs worldwide, but is most common in temperate waters. Despite its notoriety, scientists still don't know very much about its biology, habits, and movement patterns. We still don't know how many are actually out there. For that reason, in some places in the world, such as South Africa, California, and Australia, the great white is a protected species. Tagging programs are common. The main information gathered from tagging sharks is migratory studies. Tagging sharks can also give a general assessment of how big the populations are in a given area. These massive creatures can grow to at least 20 feet and weigh 3 tons. One of the largest white sharks ever recorded was captured in 1987 off the coast of South Australia. Similar to this large specimen, its estimated length was 23 feet and it weighed in at 7,000 pounds. The most commonly encountered sizes are, however, between 10 and 14 feet. They're a very distinctive species, torpedo-shaped with a pointed snout, large pectoral and first dorsal fins, a crescent-shaped tail, large black eyes, large triangular serrated teeth, and are white underneath and grey or bronze-coloured on top. Australia is renowned to be one of the best places in the world to see white sharks. A lot of what we know about the great white can be attributed in some way or other to the Australian filmmaker and great white expedition leader, Rodney Fox.
We organise expeditions, my son Andrew and I, out to the Neptune Islands where there's lots of sea lions. And it's during the winter period when the babies are first going into the water, there's lots of great white sharks circling around there. These expeditions are for tourists and for researchers and for filmmakers and photographers who want to get an eye-to-eye look at the great white sharks.
Did you hear me screaming? I'm like, oh my God, it's looking at me in the eye.
There's so much to be learnt about the sharks' habits. It's very expensive and difficult to follow them underwater and to see what they do. We don't know whether they hang around areas for a long time or whether they travel through, how much food they really need. It's still a bit of a mystery.
White sharks are primarily a coastal species and often enter very shallow water in search of prey. When mature, the great white shark's diet consists of marine mammals like seals, elephant seals, sea lions and dolphins, even young whales. Given the right conditions, they can detect distant prey like a seal using only smell and vibration. Here, a great white uses stealth to take a baby seal in one bite. Should a shark capture a mature seal, it won't have to eat again for at least a couple of weeks. Another amazing feeding behaviour is the great white leaping out of the water to deliver a death blow to its prey. For all their perceived ferocity, sharks can also be conservative in attack.
The bite and spit theory has been around and has been pushed as a theory for many years, and I believe it's a case of a shark coming up so fast and aggressively with its mouth wide open, its jaws full of these incredible teeth, and it hits a large animal, whether it be a dolphin or a seal most of the time, and it then waits until that animal, which will be badly wounded, bleeds to death and can come back, so it doesn't have to put up with the struggles and the tearing and maybe damaging of its eyes. I believe that theory still holds firm.
A great white's normal cruising speed is almost 2 miles per hour, although they can swim much faster when they are pursuing prey. White sharks differ from most other sharks and fish in that they are partially warm-blooded. They are endotherms. The temperature of a white shark can be as much as 5 to 8 degrees Fahrenheit above the surrounding water. Being warm-blooded has helped great whites to become dominant predators of swift-moving prey in cool and cold environments. The great white is also the only type of shark that will go to the surface and poke its head up out of the water. Some theories claim it's to see potential prey, such as surface-dwelling sea lions. Whatever the case, it's not something to witness at eye level.
The problem is we know so little about these magnificent predators. We do know they are long-lived and have low natural mortality. The females do not breed until at least 15 feet long, have somewhere between 4 and 11 pups every 2 to 3 years. And once we overcome our fears, we may be able to appreciate the grace and power of these awesome killers.
Next, shark attacks. We sought the facts from the fiction, and then the killer whale, a predator without peer. There are a lot of misconceptions about sharks and shark attacks on humans. From a statistical point of view, shark attack is not common. Our fear of sharks means that whenever an attack happens, it will almost certainly become front-page news and the lead story on television news.
You would not see a bigger shark in my life. I won't see another bigger one.
I know it was the one that took him because when he had him up near the boat, he regurgitated the torso of the bloke.
These are the horrific images of people in shock. Rescue and emergency services go into action when the cry of shark attack goes up. It's a rare event, but those who are taken feel the odds were well and truly against them.
To see this monster on my ski, I just thought, well, I'm not going to get out of this.
In this Australian attack, bystanders came to the aid of the surf skier and his friend. They both got away with minor injuries.
I looked at my feet, and right in front of my feet, about a foot away, was this shark, the whole head of the shark, which was gnawing through my surf ski, and he had hold of it and was trying to, rip into it. And as he was doing so, his body thrust up and hit me in the head.
Others tell a familiar tale of the one that got away. Only in this case, he's the one that got away with his life.
Yes, I knew straight away that a shark had me. It just bit me and shook me and then let go.
The injuries came down to just one massive leg bite, but keeping a cool head and using a surfboard leg rope as a tourniquet probably saved his life.
And of course, I was instantly terrified and screamed, and because there was so much blood in the water, I thought, oh, well, it's going to come back and get me again, and I'm going to die here now.
A bronze whaler was responsible for this attack. But with all that blood in the water, why didn't it finish the victim off?
When a shark attacks a human, I believe it knows pretty well straight away that it's a different type of an animal that it's attacked. And quite often, they do spit us out because we're too bony.
This may have happened in an attack in the surf at East London, South Africa. A young surfer was grabbed as he rode in a wave. The great white comes from right of screen and clamps onto the surfboard, his dorsal fin clearly visible out of the water.
I was paddling for a wave, and then all of a sudden this great white shark, about 4 meters, came and grabbed me. And the next minute I was underneath the water, and I looked at the shark face to face. And then just suddenly let go of me.
friends came to the aid of the young surfer. His hand was severely injured in the attack, but again, a leg rope was used as a tourniquet, and he was surfing again less than a week later. Others haven't got stories of escape to relate. Windsurfers, fishermen, skin divers, the fate of many may never be known.
Buckle hasn't been undone. No. There's all the bite marks there. Yeah.
The state of this wetsuit indicates death by shark attack without doubt. But it's not all bad news.
You're looking at a bite that stretches around this far.
Over 80% of people who are attacked by sharks live to tell the tale. One such victim who has, since surviving his encounter with a great white in 1963, dedicated his life to work for the welfare of sharks, is Rodney Fox.
I was spearfishing with 40 other divers. There was lots of blood in the water from speared fish. Nobody had seen any sharks. I had dived down and was about to spear a tilliwurti or a strongfish when all of a sudden I felt this huge thump and crash, and I was hurled through the water at great speed, and my gun was knocked out of my hand, the mask off my face. I gouged around its head to try and make it let go, and it seemed to fall out of its mouth. I thrust my hand off to push it away, and it disappeared in its mouth. I quickly grabbed it in a bear hug before it could bite me again, and then I ran out of air and I went to the surface for air. The shark followed me up. I kicked at it, but it swallowed the float that I was towing and started to tow me underwater. And I was so lucky that the rope broke, because I managed to get to the surface, and in a big pool of blood, a boat and crew found me and ripped me into it before the shark could return. It was a miracle.
Most shark attacks appear to be a case of mistaken identity. Experts believe the great white sometimes incorrectly identify surfers as their favourite food.
From below, it's easy to see how Rob could be confused as a seal. Now, imagine a great white sizing up this prey, then coming in for the kill. Some attacks may be purely an inquisitive shark testing an object. Some may be territorial. Others may be related to the invasion of the shark's personal space by the human. Sometimes we just get in the way of a meal. Of the some 360 species of sharks, only a handful are considered potential killers of humans.
Even though there is a greater risk from drowning than there is from being killed with an encounter with a shark, we must use common sense on where we swim and how we act in the water. This will always be the best prevention from invoking or inviting an attack. The Australian Shark File has some useful hints on how to avoid being another statistic.
People shouldn't disregard the protection offered of a patrolled beach or protected swimming area. Common cautions include always swim, dive or surf with other people. If possible, do not swim at dusk or at night. This is the time that most sharks feed. If you see a shark, remember to stay calm and leave the water as quickly and as quietly as possible. When we come back, you'll meet the ocean's top predator. Just as we dominate the land, the killer whale dominates the seas. The largest of all dolphins, the orca or killer whale, is a highly intelligent and inquisitive marine mammal. It's their adventurousness which has meant that killer whales are found throughout the world's oceans, from the equator to the polar ice. Killer whales live in cohesive, long-term social groups called pods. But they don't mate within these pods. Incredibly, it's their intelligence in the use of speech and particularly dialect that sees them seeking mates from other pods to prevent the dangers of inbreeding.
What is really interesting, I mean, within each pod of killer whales got its own dialects. So the more different you are from this pod, the more different will be your dialect. And one female will in fact choose a male which has the most different dialect from its own pod, so avoiding inbreeding in fact.
Researchers like French scientist Christophe Guenet, a world authority on orcas, have been able to categorise killer whales into two distinct groups based on physical and behavioural characteristics.
One population is qualified as resident, and it's composed of whales feeding almost exclusively on fish and more precisely on salmon. The overall population of killer whales present in that area is qualified as transients, and these killer whales mostly feed on marine mammals and more especially on seals. Researchers have been able to show that these two populations of killer whales diverged about at least 70,000 years ago.
As the top predator in the ocean, the killer whale's diet extends to several hundred known species, including fish, seals and sea lions, walruses, birds, sea turtles, as well as otters and penguins. Much like packs of wolves, the killer whales work together to encircle and herd. The prey in this case is a pod of Dahl's porpoises. Similar in appearance to the orcas with their black and white markings, the porpoises' only defence is their amazing speed, outrunning to survive another day in the ravenous oceans. If the porpoises escape, the killer whale will turn its gaze to anything else that lives in its world. They've even been seen to attack and kill great white sharks. And the largest creatures in the ocean bear the scars of killer whale attacks. But killer whales, once in captivity, may seem easy to train. This is the world-famous Shamu. He was once king of the San Diego Zoo. How can the sea's most successful predator want to behave in this way?
People have been always wondering, I mean, why killer whales were so easily trained in captivity. But I think it's just part of their intelligence. I mean, they are trained to learn. They are active animals, so they like learning.
But lurking within the huge brain of the orca lies secrets we may never understand. Nigel Ormerod, dolphin trainer.
I actually brought a killer whale from the States to England, from Ingo Park Zoo, and the whale had arrived. We put it into the large pool. The girl said, "Who's going in?" I said, "Well, I'll go in." So I pushed off to stroke it on the beak and sort of around its eye, just talking to her. But she actually turned towards me and just opened her mouth up, and I had one set of teeth around my neck and the other around my ankles. And he actually took me down to about 30 feet and just swam around. I could feel its muscly tongue just sort of feeling me on the stomach. And after a short period of time, it actually let me go. With the buoyancy of the wetsuit, I just floated to the top. So I just bobbed up and down there for a while. She actually came around again. And this time I stroked it on the beak, around its eye, just talking to her. Grabbed the dorsal fin, she towed me around. When we came close to the edge of the pool, I just pushed off and climbed out of the pool. There was no malice and no intentions. I mean, she came towards me very, very slowly. I mean, if they want to move quick, they can move really quick. And if she wanted to eat, she could have just come from the other side of the pool, full belt, and lifted me out and probably chopped me in half.
Its name, killer whale, comes from 18th century whalers who would see orcas feeding on other whales and dolphins.
This is the skeleton of a unique killer whale called Tom. He was the leader of a pod of 6 killer whales that used to herd whales into a bay called Twofold Bay in a little town called Eden on the east coast of Australia.
Twofold Bay has always been a pretty community with its roots embracing the sea. This area has been witness to the migration of whales long before history recorded the event. But a man by the name of George Davidson set up a whaling station here in the 1800s, when whales were looked upon as a commodity, supplying needed raw materials. This whaling station was like many around the globe, but as Rob explained, the whalers were assisted in their harvest by killer whales. Tom seemed to lead a pod of strong young orcas. None remember how it started, but when the cry of "Rusho, Rusho" went up, the humpbacks or right whales were being herded into the bay by the killer whales. George's crew would take to the whaleboats and with oars straining in all weather would hand throw harpoons. Killer whale Tom and his pod would assist in the capture, Tom by holding the harpoon rope in his jaw, preventing the floundering and bewildered target whale from escaping, and others by blocking its way out of the bay. The killer whale's reward was the prized lips and tongue of the fated whale. From 1843 until Tom the orca died in 1930, this remarkable pact between man and killer whale went unspoken but never broken.
That was a very unique situation between man and animal, because this particular killer whale actually grabbed the harpoon rope between his teeth to slow the whales down. And you can see he did this on many, many occasions, because all of his teeth on the other side have been worn right down. And you can see with the rope we'll be wearing the next tooth down. It's just an amazing situation of cooperation between man and beast.
Leaving no doubt that our relationship with the killer whale is one of awe and mutual respect. Coming up, one last look at these awesome predators of the sea.
We have just ventured into the often frightening but always compelling world of the sea. Shark ancestry predates the dinosaurs. Their survival a direct consequence of their instinct to kill. They have, in fact, evolved into the complete hunting machine.
From their torpedo-shaped bodies to their razor-sharp teeth to their incredible sensory systems, sharks are remarkable predators. Often maligned and misunderstood, the great white shark is perhaps the most feared and also the most fascinating sea creature. There is, however, no denying its predatory efficiency.
I don't believe that sharks deliberately attack humans at all. I believe they often make mistakes. Sharks eat things as big as humans every day. Great white sharks eat dolphins and seals and chase them. And so there's no reason why they wouldn't eat humans, except they don't seem to target us as a food. I believe that sharks race up and hit things on the surface. Dolphins and seals are attacked regularly on the surface as they come up to breathe. They're at their least vulnerable time then, and most vulnerable I should say, because they can't escape into the air. And so the shark comes through and hits them on the surface. So swimmers and surfers can be mistaken by great whites as food, and it's quite often that when they're hit, that a shark will come up and hit a surfboard or something and then not realise that it's not an edible object, thinking it's a seal. I believe that we should spend more time and effort learning about sharks, learning how we can enter their water safely and learn to live with them instead of killing them from fear. I've been working on electronic shark repellents and trying to help as many people to make that little black box that you can strap on and go in the ocean with safety. And we've done some tests with them, and I believe that it won't be long before there will be an electronic repellent that will keep sharks at bay under most conditions. I don't really know whether an attacking shark that's coming in at a great speed thinking you're a sea lion will be able to be dissuaded to go away. But generally, the shark that is curious and circling and thinks you're something to eat will be dissuaded.
Just the same way we have come to appreciate killer whales as intelligent hunters of the sea.
Killer whales in the ocean are really, the top predators. They are really at the end of the food chain of the oceans. They are really probably the top. There is no other word. The top predators of the ocean with the white shark, but even probably on the top of the white shark because they can feed on them.
They are predators with a killer instinct. I'm Rob Brettle. Thanks for joining us on Killer Instinct.